All right, so here we are. No, I'm in a crisis here. Is it Kingdom Voices Unleashed or is it Kingdom Voices Unleashed brought to you by the Kingdom Enter podcast? Oh, see, we're in the midst of a name change, so bear with me. But I have a perfect guess for the name change. But first, let me let you know we are still pivoting in the AI. Coming out very soon is my latest course, Podcasts Made Easy with AI. So much fun putting this together because, see, I'm all about your voice. You got to share your voice. And then maybe you got to market your voice. Podcasting is such a beautiful thing. And if you've heard me, this is like truly my happy place. So before that, let's just get right to it. Let me just share with you about Paul Casey. I'm so excited to have him today. Paul Casey's life story is a profound illustration of resilience and transformative change, success. He faced adversity at a young age. He found himself in places he didn't want to be. At 23, Paul was facing a potential 27-year prison sentence. He was given a 10-year instead. And it was during this time that Paul got real with himself, like most of them. Got face to face with himself. But let me tell you, he's come out a fighter. He's come out as a father figure. He has 2 successful businesses in the realms of online fitness, coaching, and motivational speaking. So please, will you help me welcome Paul Casey? Paul, great to have you.
What's up, Teresa? I'm so
Yeah.
happy to be here. That was a great introduction. Wow,
Well,
I feel honored.
so I gotta say, Paul, you're yet another wonderful connection. I first met you at Build Your Brand AI, and
Yeah,
then you were at the Mastermind just a couple of weeks ago. And I
sure
gotta
was.
tell you, whenever you talk, it's like in my mind, I'm like, "That's Coach Paul. He's speaking. Listen to him." He's
Thank
known
you.
as Coach Paul. So Paul, I gave you an introduction, but give us a little bit more introduction. And you know what I like to do? I like to just kind of piece by piece kind of undo some stories because people need your hope and they need the identity shift. So tell us just a little more about yourself and we'll start diving into some stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like a lot of people, I grew up in a broken household. My mom struggled with drug and alcohol addiction. My dad was, angry. He had anger issues. He was physically and emotionally abusive. They both did the best they could with what they had, with the lifestyle that they once lived, and they made
Yes.
whatever adjustments necessary. You
Yeah.
know, and so, childhood wasn't the greatest. And going through my childhood, I struggled a lot. I struggled with my identity. I struggled with fitting in because even in elementary school, I was the kid whose mom was a druggie, right? I was the kid that, like didn't have a happy household. And so I didn't get along with a lot of people at school. And it progressively got worse as I got older. I didn't fit into certain crowds. And eventually I started fitting into the wrong crowds. And when I started fitting into the wrong crowds, I started to do the wrong things.
Wow.
Um, and by the time I was 15, both my parents had made some adjustments to their lifestyles. My mom had stopped using drugs and alcohol. She got clean. My dad had worked on his anger management issues. But by then, I was already a broken child, right?
Wow.
And so by the time I was 15, I got involved in criminal activity. I got involved in drugs and alcohol myself. And so by the time I was 15, I started going to juvenile hall, boys' homes, mental hospitals. And I spent more time during my teenage years incarcerated than I spent free. And
Oh,
when I
wow.
was free, I was either addicted to drugs or I was homeless because I had nowhere to go because I wasn't living a successful lifestyle. I wasn't living.
Right.
My mom had got her life together, so she wasn't going to have me in her house doing drugs, selling drug, gang activity, guns, all this stupid stuff that I was doing in my teens. And so I spent more time from the age of 15 to 18 incarcerated than I spent free. And that became normal. Incarceration
Mm,
became normal for me. Like being in a
bless you.
prison cell treated like an animal became normal for me. And because of that, by the time I was 18, I started going to jail. And once again, it was normal. Like, okay, I go to jail for a little bit. I get out and go back to the same things I knew. By the time I was 19, I went to prison for the first time. And, in the neighborhood I grew up in, going to prison was like a level of honor. Like,
Wow.
you go to prison and then you get out of prison, you're like, cool, right?
Wow.
And so this goes back to that identity. I was still building this identity around these negative ideals. And went into prison, and I was in prison for about a year and a half. And I got out of prison and I made a small attempt to get my life in order. I got a job. I enrolled in some college classes. I had a girlfriend. She had a son. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm just going to get my life in order. But I had never actually like worked on anything. I never like worked
Wow.
on myself. And that's the biggest thing when we talk about identity. I never worked on that identity. I
Yeah.
never changed that identity. So I made a small attempt. And I say an attempt because it didn't last very long. Before you knew it, I went back to the identity I knew. I went back to
Whoa.
drug using. I went back to criminal
Yeah.
behavior, hanging out with the wrong crowds. And yeah, at 22 years old, I committed a crime that had me looking at 27 years.
Hmm.
And by the time I was 23, I was in the jail cell going to court, and they were like telling me, I was going to be in prison for 27 years, and I had
Wow.
just like a lot of things going on, and I kind of gave up at that time. And
Well, was that a point of like, okay, no return for you? Like, okay, they're saying 27 years. Was that like when did that become the pivot for you?
so that was, it wasn't really a point of no return at that point, right?
Okay. Okay.
Because I didn't actually believe it was possible, right? Like I was like, nah, they can't give me 27 years for this. Like
Wow.
I didn't believe it,
Mm.
right? And so I didn't take it serious. Because I didn't believe it and didn't take it serious, I played with it, and I just kept doing what I was doing. Like, man, they're not going to give me 27 years. I'll be okay, this and that. And then I went to court,
Phew.
and when I went to court, I heard the word guilty.
Oh.
And when I heard the word guilty, like they kept talking, but like I heard like ringing in my ears, my palms were sweaty, and I
Oh
just like
wow.
stomach dropped, and I was just like, that was the moment when I was like, my life is over, right? Like, nah, no, how did they just say guilty? Like that's not possible, but they did, and there was a lot of guilties. In fact, there was quite a few guilties at that point in time, and man, at that point, I thought my life was over. That was a turning point where I was like, it's over.
Okay.
I'm done. Like I'm looking at 27 years in prison, and they just found me guilty.
Wow.
And
So
so,
in the process of that, and then how long in that so-called 27-year prison sentence, how long were you in there when you started doing some identity thinking and shifts? How long were you in there?
yeah. So if we reverse a little bit, um,
Sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. So basically, they ended up giving me 10. So they didn't give
Oh,
me.
wow.
They gave
Okay.
me, right? And so
Pretty
what happened
amazing.
was basically the judge looked at the circumstances, and they did drop a few of the charges, right? Because there wasn't enough evidence to hold me guilty of those charges.
Okay.
But they still gave me 10 years, right? They
Wow.
gave me 10 years in prison. And to be honest with you, I initially went in there with those 10 years. And a lot of people like would think like, oh my gosh, you just got sentenced to 10 years and you completely changed your life. It's not what happened, right?
Okay. That's
Because
not
I
like
had this life, this identity that I had already created, right? So when I went into prison for 10 years, I wasn't thinking I'm going to change my ways, I'm going to change my life. I was thinking I need to hold this identity and hold this identity
oh, wow.
in order to make it out, right?
Jeez.
Because 10
Yeah.
years is a long time to be in prison, right? Prison is not a safe place.
Mm.
Prison is a violent place. And so you have to become something different,
Okay.
especially with the amount of time I was doing.
All right.
Okay? So I took who I was on the streets and made it worse.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. And I became a worse human being, honestly. And so for quite some time, I lived up to this identity I'd created for myself. But as time progressed,
Yeah.
I started to make small changes. Once again, slow change for me.
Okay.
I started doing some college classes, and I
Good.
got really obsessed with fitness. So I started reading a lot of books on fitness and nutrition.
Wow.
I read every book, every magazine, everything I could get my hands on. Like I was just obsessed with fitness. And I actually
Okay.
became the person that people went to for fitness advice. People
Nice.
wanted to lose weight, they came and talked to me. They wanted to do a first
Interesting.
pull up, want to run a mile. They wanted whatever it was. People wanted to do. They would come to me and ask me questions about fitness. I would build people workout plans, and I would work out with people, and I would support
Amazing.
people. And I kind of became a personal trainer in prison.
Yeah. See,
And so like I started like seeing like, oh, this is fun. I enjoy this.
wow.
This is the first time in my life I ever felt like I was good at something that was positive. And so as time progressed, I was able to stay out of trouble for a while, and I eventually worked my way down to a lower level facility. And when I got to this lower level facility, I was given an opportunity to go to fire camp and become an inmate firefighter.
Very
Right?
cool. Okay.
I was like, all right, cool, let's do this. So I went and I became an inmate firefighter. And as an inmate firefighter, I started learning some skill sets.
Yeah.
I learned how to be a firefighter first off, but eventually I became a chainsaw mechanic and I started working on chainsaws. But during my time at fire camp, my mom, who had gotten her life together and was my biggest supporter and would come and visit me and she would send me money and she would take care of me while I was in prison. 2013, she passed away from cancer. And that broke me. That broke me. And so all this small change I had started to make went down the drain.
Oh,
And I
bless.
stopped caring.
Oh,
Honestly didn't want to live anymore.
bless you.
And I gave up. And so all this good stuff I was doing at fire camp, I basically flushed it down the toilet.
Oh, bless you.
And I went back to drug and alcohol usage and fighting. And I got kicked out of 4 different fire camps. And eventually they were tired of me and they sent me back to the prisons. And my drug addiction and my anger just took off. Took off like a wildfire. And so because of that, I got back into that old identity.
Okay.
And I dove into that old identity strong, and I went back to criminal activity while incarcerated.
Sure.
And I dug myself into a deeper and deeper hole over time.
Wow.
And honestly, it wasn't until 9 years into these 10 years in prison.
Okay.
9 years in, on August 1st, 2017, I was supposed to get out of prison, right? Because
Okay.
when you're in prison, you do a percentage of your time. And had I had good behavior, I would have done 9 years out of those 10 years. But because of my bad behavior, I'd actually extended my stay. And so I extended my stay, and
bless you.
here I was, supposed to get out, right? It's crazy, right? So August 1st, 2017, Teresa, I was supposed to get out of prison, and I wasn't getting out.
Oh, geez.
Right? And so my release date came and left, and I was depressed, and I was angry, and I was still getting high, and I was getting in fist fights, and I was just doing all these things throughout the month of August in 2017. And then I woke up one morning, and people ask me all the time, what changed?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what changed. The only thing that changed on this one morning was my mindset.
Sure.
Right? And so that's why with my coaching program and with my clients, we focus a lot on mindset. With my motivational speaking, we focus on mindset.
Sure.
Because that's the only thing you got to change in order to change everything is your mindset.
Yeah.
And so
wow.
Throughout the month of August, I was struggling and I was still using drugs and I was still getting in fights and I was just like, I wanted to die, honestly. I was trying to kill myself through drug usage. Like I was just putting all these drugs in my system, just hoping like I just wouldn't wake up the next morning.
Sure.
And then on August 30th, 2017, I woke up. I looked in the mirror and I see my cheeks were sunken in and I looked like a skeleton. My eyes were all black because I was barely sleeping. I was angry and I just looked at myself in the mirror and I just saw like someone I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see who I once was and I didn't see who I wanted to be. And so on that day, I made a conscious decision from that point on that I was going to completely change everything.
Yeah, amen. Already people are responding. So I say thanks to Erical. And hey, someone said, all right, man, you're right there changing lives. And I appreciate those who are commenting. So this is you've pretty much described the worst place almost anyone can be. You said two things. You said you weren't hanging around the right people. And then of course we get to mindsets. So I believe personally that to really go off on your destiny, to really get to that place where you want to use your voice, it comes down to identity. And oftentimes it comes down to personal development, that shift in your mindset. And then I know who you're hanging around right now. It has everything to do with who you hang out with. So give us a little preview of getting out of prison. Okay, let's go straight to getting out. And how did you manage? Was the mindset enough of a change to start managing your behavior when you got out?
Yeah. So when I shifted my mindset on August 30th, 2017, I had 1 year left. I had
Whew.
extended for 1 year, and I
Okay.
spent that last year in prison absolutely obsessed with becoming the most
Oh,
elite and
so
amazing
good.
human being I could be.
All right. Come
Personal
on.
development, it's everything I could do to change who I was, so that when I got out of prison on August 25th, almost a year later, August 25th, 2018, I walked out of prison with a plan. I walked out of prison with a plan to be an absolutely different human being than the person I was when I walked in and the person that I was while there. And I came out with a plan to
Yeah.
impact the world in a positive and productive manner. Right?
Can I say something? Just a minute.
Absolutely.
Just a minute. When you started sharing about changing your mindset and improving yourself, I don't know if anyone else noticed, but all of a sudden you stood up even a little stronger in your chair, because that's the fire that you have inside of you. So
Absolutely.
you started before. Did it stay with you when you got out this time?
Yes.
Hey.
And so I built that momentum. I built that momentum, right? So I'm a firm believer that, like, when you're on a mission and when you're doing what you're supposed to or need to be doing, you're within your purpose and you get that momentum going, you don't stop.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, I'll give you an example. I'm going through some family issues right now. My dad's not doing too well.
I'm
We were up
sorry.
in Sacramento visiting him last night. Basically, the doctors are like telling us that it's time to pull the plug on him. And that shit hurts because I've spent a lot of time rebuilding that relationship with him. And here I am, still on this podcast episode. You know, I still did my client check-ins for all my clients this morning. I'm still
Wow.
showing up in my business and in my life for my family. You know,
Yes.
even though, like, I didn't want to get out of bed this morning, I don't want to deal with anything. Like, my dad's not going to be around very much longer, and that shit
Mm.
hurts.
Yeah.
But momentum,
Wow.
right? And so
Yeah.
getting back to when I got out of prison, that last year in prison, I built up this momentum, and I'm like working on myself, and I'm reading books, and I'm writing and journaling and making a plan. And so when I got out, I kept that momentum going,
So
right?
good.
And the
Yeah.
momentum was crazy when I got out because, like, it was the small things. You know, for the people listening right now in the audience, or if you're listening this
Yeah.
later on, small wins create big achievements,
So good.
right? So I got out and something small like getting my driver's license, bam, that was a
Super.
win. You
Yeah.
know, getting a cell phone and then filling it with positive people's phone numbers, that was a win,
It's a big win.
right? I was gone for 10 years. Like, I never used the touchscreen before, and I got out. Now,
Yeah.
iPhones and all these crazy touchscreens, I had to learn that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I got out and I was able to, like, start creating this circle of influence, right? Like, you and I
Good.
are both in this super
Yeah.
connector mastermind. We're surrounded
Exactly.
by all these amazing human beings, and we
Amazing.
paid a lot of money to be in that circle, right?
Hmm.
But just getting out, I have no money like that, right? So I had to surround myself with circles of influences of people that would just
So
would
good.
allow me to latch onto them, right? And just be like,
Yeah.
hey, you're doing some cool stuff in the world. I want to be like you. Can I hang out with you?
So
Right?
good.
And so I surrounded myself with these people and I started building this momentum. And every win, I got to celebrate every single win. I
So
got my
good.
driver's license. I enrolled in college. I got my first car. I got a job. I got another car. I got another job. And I built and I built and I built and I built until I'm in a place right now where I'm incredibly successful. And honestly, I'm only just now getting started.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Can I touch on something?
please,
You
yes.
had to have a discipline with each thing you got. Many guys, I say this from experience, many guys get out of prison, and the minute they get that cell phone, they can get tricked. That touch phone, next thing you know, they think they're talking. I'm just gonna be real. They think they're talking to a girl, and they get attached just on the phone, and then their life takes a right turn, and they end up losing money and losing hope. So you had a setup of discipline to handle the phone, to handle the car, to handle the cash, and really to handle audiences. Paul, you came to build your brand AI. There was no shame. I love that. You knew already what your identity was. You were just building it. And I think, let's talk about shame. How does someone get past the shame, Paul? Because I really believe if we don't deal with our inner issues, shame, grief, just lack of good judgment, if we don't, especially shame, if we don't deal with it, it starts to spill out in other ways, in our personality and how we deal with people. So, how is that just been a part of the package of personal development to deal with the shame? because you don't have shame. I see no shame in you. I love it. So, what would you say someone may be dealing with imposter syndrome, shame? Kind of big question.
That is a big question. I love that question. So let's unpack it a little bit. So a lot of times shame comes from things we've done, and I feel that shame is attached to regret, right? And so
Oh,
when we have regret for the things we've done in the past, it creates shame and guilt around what we've done. So for me, the way I am overcoming it, because I'm not going to say I have 100% overcome it,
it's
right? Like
honest.
I still
Yeah.
have moments of regret, of guilt, of
Okay.
shame,
Sure.
especially when it comes like right now with my dad's sickness and all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much longer he's going to be around, but today I get to show up for him. You know,
Yeah.
last night I got to drive an hour and a half to go see him for 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to go spend some time with him, right?
That's
I
good.
got to look him in the eyes and be like, you know what? Don't quit, but I support whatever chose happens. Like if you don't make it, like if you don't survive this, like I'm gonna be okay, but just know that I'm here. And my little brother flew all the way from Florida to be here as well. We both got like this is the first time the three of us have been in a room in a very long time, right?
Cool.
Three of us were together last night in that hospital room, right? And when it comes to shame, when it comes to guilt, when it comes to regret, for me, that's why I'm so aggressive with what I do.
That's good.
That's a driving force for me,
Sure.
right? Because like if I feel guilty or ashamed of something I've done in the past, for me, I want to make up for it. I want to make the world a better place. I want to take my story, my experience, and help someone else.
Hey,
Like
amen.
our amazing mentor, Jen Gottlieb says, right? Hope,
Yeah.
right? Hope. Help one person every day.
Hello. I
You know?
love it.
So if I can spend the remaining days of my life
That's so good.
helping one person every single day, then I can make up for all the shitty things I've done. And I've done a
Yeah.
lot, right? So
Someone's got to wait. We got to pause there. We got
yes,
to dig deep in that. Someone says, "Wait a minute, that sounds too easy." In a way, what it does is it narrows your thinking. So instead of thinking, "Oh, I got to go, I'll do this," you help one person one day. That
that's
to
sure.
adds up to a balcony of people that are waiting to. They're not only waving their flags; they're waiting to come back and help you. And if you think about it, there's no greater to me there's no greater boost than being able to help people within the confines of of what you can do to help them. So help one person every day. So keep building it. How did you continue with that mindset? Because you're like dropping bombs, mic drops of just one little thing. Give us something else. That was a good one. And shame, I realize, is a tough one to unpack, but I think what you're seeing is the diligence of your work. Even that last year in prison, the diligence starts to pay off. Tell us how important it is who you hang around with.
Oh, I love that question. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people is key, right? And so like when I got out of prison, like I didn't have any phone numbers for anyone I once associated with. And I began to build up this new identity of someone that associates with positive and productive human beings, right? And so I started to associate with others that were doing positive, productive things
So
in
good.
their lives, right? And I
Yeah.
started to focus on that. Like I have a conversation with someone, and if I see negativity, I see poor me, I see a victim mentality, I'm like, all right, that's you. I'm not gonna hang out with you, right? Like honestly, I have a very small circle of influence. Like I have a very small
I
circle
think
of
that's
people that I
healthy.
associate with.
Yeah.
You know? I might have over 20,000 followers on Instagram, but I only got about 10 people that I talk to on a daily or
I
weekly,
understand that.
you
Yeah.
know? And every single person in there, they are actively working on themselves. Not
Yeah.
everyone is in the position I'm at yet,
Right.
actively working on themselves.
So good.
You know, because I don't want to hang out with you if all you talk about is negativity, if all you talk about is how horrible the world is, if all you talk about is how
Yeah.
you are, if
Come
all you
on.
talk about is how expensive everything is. Like, no, because that's how you stay there.
That's
That's how you
right.
stay there, right? I want to talk about how we're going to make an impact in the world, how we're going to help more people, how we're going to make more money that can be used to impact more people. I hear this all the time. Money can't buy you happiness. Well, I have to disagree because if I have more money and I can donate more money to support
Yay.
who don't
Come
have
on.
anything, right? I could donate money to a food bank that's going to take that food to families that need, and those families can go to bed hungry or full instead of hungry. Guess what? We bought them happiness.
Yeah,
Right?
come on.
Everyone thinks materialistic. Oh, money can't buy you something that's materialistic that can make you happy, but money can support someone else's needs. And if it can support someone else's needs and help someone, you can buy them happiness, right? And so, like, how can I do that? I got to work really hard to do that, right? I got to surround myself with positive influences that are on that same mindset,
Yeah.
you know? And so if we surround ourselves with other people that are on that mindset, right, that are willing to grow, willing to learn, willing to become better,
Come
guess
on.
what? Not only uplifts me, you know, like I've got like literally a small handful of people, right, that I talk to on a daily basis, like other than my clients. You know,
Right.
and even my clients, like I'm really particular. I don't just, oh, you want to lose weight? You can come work with me. That's cool. No, like you have to really show me like you are serious about growth, about change, about becoming a better version of yourself. Like
So
I'm very
good.
particular. I don't just take everyone on as a client,
Sure.
you know,
That's
and
so
it's
good.
the same idea. Like, what are you willing or able to do for yourself? And how
Yeah.
can I support you in that mission?
Okay, come on, guys. I just changed my podcast to Kingdom Voices Unleashed. Is Paul unleashed or what? You're getting lots of comments on the side there, Paul. And I appreciate the energy. And I think because I've met you twice, this is no BS. This is the real deal. So tell us, just as we close out, tell us what you're doing now. You said clients, you're working out, you're helping people work out. But if someone wanted to know more about you and find out what you offer, what would be that process?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach out to me is on Instagram.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Instagram is the best way. So the_coach_Paul, THE_coach, COACH_Paul,
I'm
PAUL.
putting it in the comments, so or live or recorded, you guys can do that. And I know Paul will answer you. He's not someone that'll just ignore you. So okay.
There we go. Yep, the Coach Paul. That's my Instagram. That's my YouTube. On Facebook, I'm Paul Casey. But what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'm using a multifaceted technique to impact the youth.
Ooh, I like
I'm
that.
on a mission to impact hundreds of thousands of lives, and I believe it starts with the youth. Okay. So I'm using two tools to impact the youth. Number one, I'm an online fitness coach that primarily works with busy moms that want to lose up to 20 pounds or more without spending hours in the gym and
That's
without
awesome.
cutting carbs. And the
Okay.
reason why I'm very specific about that is because my mom struggled with her health and she passed away at a pretty young age. Now, I'm not 100% confident or know for sure because I'm not a doctor if being healthy, being fit would have helped her fight the cancer better. But I do know that if you take care of your health now, you're less likely to face life-altering diseases in the future.
That's right.
I also know that moms run the household. I know dads like to think they do, but we don't run nothing, okay? My girl runs the household. We got 2 kids. You know, she's the boss. I just do my part. You know what? Here's the deal. If I can help more moms establish healthier habits within their household, it can spread to their children. And if I can help that mom learn how to eat healthier and feed their kids healthier foods and show their kids movement. My kids, our kids, they do martial arts, they exercise. My kids love to do burpees because of me and my girlfriend, right?
That's
We
awesome.
set that example for these kids. They see us physically fit, right? They don't think, oh, it's okay to eat McDonald's and watch Netflix all day because we don't do that in our
Hey,
house.
hey, hey. That's
Right?
amazing.
So if I can teach more mothers to live a healthier, successful lifestyle,
Okay.
spread that to their children, then I can help those kids live a
So
healthier,
good.
happier lifestyle. At the same time, I use my story of resilience, of
Yeah.
growth, of transformation, of identity shifts. I
Yeah.
use my story of coming from a broken home, of being physically, emotionally abused, of being addicted to drugs as a teenager, of spending more time incarcerated as a teenager than I actually spent free, of being homeless as a kid. If
Yeah.
I can use that story to reach out to the youth or to reach out to anyone else relevant to the youth,
Yeah.
PAs, judges, police officers, teachers, nurses, parents, I speak to these demographics in order to show them that it's okay to struggle, but you can overcome it if you choose to. And if they
Yeah.
start overcoming it now, they don't have to go through everything I've been through.
So good. So good, Paul.
And so with those two tools,
That's amazing. Yeah. And at the same time, you're surrounding yourself with the latest in technology to do it quicker and easier. You're surrounding yourself with voices like Jen Gottlieb and Chris Winfield. And you're a powerful voice. I want to tell you, you're a powerful voice just in that group itself. And, you know, when Paul enters a room, as you can probably manage, people's heads turned. It's not because of his outward, it's because of what he's built on the inside. I truly believe that as you personally develop, professionally develop, you create this presence of really what's inside of you. And Paul, you do that so well. And lots of comments. And if you want to reach out, please go to @the_coach_Paul.
yes.
And just connect with them. And if anything, just say, hey man, I really enjoyed you on the podcast. You're trying to start a podcast too, aren't you? What's the name of that going to be?
Yeah, so so here's the crazy trip, right? So I started the podcast last July.
Okay.
Maybe earlier than maybe May, I think actually. So in May I started a podcast, and that's also when I launched my motivational speaking business. So my motivational speaking business is called Becoming a Better You, and it's motivational speaking and podcasting. And I launched that business earlier this year, and I've started hitting stages, speaking at schools, speaking at juvenile detention facilities. I did my first live event last August, literally the day after the day I got out of prison. And I'm doing my next live event in Castro Valley, California on February 17th. I've got 10 amazing speakers. Many of them are from the mastermind, but some of them are just people that are part of that circle of influence I just talked to you about.
So good.
And we're raising 1 million meals for Feeding America, which is a nonprofit organization that gives food banks to poverty-stricken neighborhoods. So we're raising 1 million meals using our speaking event, and then my good friend Zune, and he's going to be running across America next year. Right?
Wow.
And I'm part of that run with him to raise that 1 million meals. So we're on a mission to impact lives through that aspect. Okay. And so in doing so, I've also started the podcast. So the crazy story is I started the podcast. I've been interviewing people. The podcast was going great, but Apple, for some reason, Apple Connect wouldn't connect my podcast to Apple. And I was like going back and forth with support for months.
Oh, bless you.
Like, I don't have time for this right now. I have other things to work on.
It's a distraction.
Yeah, I just took a break. I was like, I got to step back.
Okay. Yeah.
About a week ago, I was like, all right, it's time to get it back in motion. And I went in and I typed in the information I needed, and it went through. And now my podcast is live. Fully on Apple Podcast. So I got about 12 episodes up right now.
Good.
Becoming a Better You podcast with.
I love the name, Coming a Better You podcast. If nothing else, check that out. And if you're enjoying the fire, there's nothing like enjoying the fire. I love podcasting, so that's just awesome. So I want to say thank you so much, Paul, for taking time and really firing people up. And guys, at @the_coach_Paul, or find them on Apple. Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate you so much, man.
Thank you as well.
And you've been listening to the Kingdom Voices Unleashed. Is that not just a great title for this? Be sure to check out Paul. If you want more information, how about that? Podcasting Made Easy with AI. The shift is happening. You can check more details on that shift at teresacroft.com. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next episode of Kingdom Voices Unleashed.